Hi there everybody, and thank you again for tuning into my channel, The Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. Today I am making a second video regarding this lovely and quite literally beautiful, well-preserved Singer 191J. But today I wanted to talk to you about the second thing that got in my way of trying to get this machine to sew a stitch, and that had to do with its bobbin case. So the bobbin case was lost. I mean, it wasn't there. You know, it don't know what happened to it. So, and this is what helped inform the first video. Of course, I was trying to use a class 15 bobbin case with the finger to the right, and it would sort of go on, but then not really, and it wouldn't work. So, and I should have known better because the engineers were very specific. You know, you gotta use the machine the way it was designed. Okay, so I went and in search of a bobbin case that this machine was designed for. Right? Remember, I've shown all of you in the earlier video the race cover has its little notch at the top with an angle that suggests that you would use the bobbin case with the little finger to the left, and I did. And I was fortunate. I was going online and having a hard time finding one. If any of you know where these can be found, let me know. So I went to a local sewing store and they had them, and I was so excited. And I got it, and I was like, this is going to be great. So I got it, and I brought it home, and don't you know, I got my my bobbin in, and figured out how I was going to thread the bobbin. Yes, well, remember I've told you, people sometimes think I'm kidding when I say that original parts were made better. And they were, and this is a great example of it. So I got this bobbin case, and every time I went to put it on, there's a shaft here that connects to your shuttle. And the shaft, the whole purpose of this shaft is, of course, to, this is what you attach your bobbin case to with the class 15 design, right? And you can see it. You'll see the shaft poking out right here. And there's a little place here where it's supposed to click and lock into place. And no matter how hard I tried, and I mean I tried, folks, I kept trying and trying, and every time I did, this lever, by the way, you know, it's just like any other class 15. I don't know if you can hear it clicking, but it works. The spring works. It's not as smooth because it's made somewhere in Asia and it's not made like the originals. But I thought, okay, so what? It'll work, right? Well, not really. One thing you want to be aware of is that this is a bobbin case for class 15. Notice the finger is pointing to the right or 1 o'clock, which doesn't fit. And there's another reason. Look at that opening. You see the opening at the top? Well, that opening is where your needle has to go down into. So every time I tried to use this one, of course, the needle would hit, and I thought, okay, that was telling me this ain't going to work. Vintage sewing guy. So, all right. So I took it, and I put it on. And every time I did, when I installed it, don't you know, this thing would become loose. This little, and it has plenty of tension doing this, but it went on the shaft, it would just flop off. And eventually, I had a mess, and it wouldn't sew at all, and sometimes it would just roll off. And I thought, all right, now what's going on? Well, I had in my stash, and I had found it earlier, I went through all of my old parts. I told you all that I like to keep old sewing machine parts. Well, I had one, just one in my little inventory of the right bobbin type, because you see the finger, again, is pointing at 11 o'clock, and that is what this machine wants. But it was missing the spring, okay? Remember, your bobbin cases have springs in them. In this case, there's a tiny little screw, and it screws onto this little, it looks like a little plate, but it's actually a tensioning piece. And this is, of course, what if you really have to, you can adjust the tension on the bobbin, because the bobbin and the upper tension work together to form a stitch, right? Well, this was missing off of this. I'm like, well, that's useless. It's not going to work. So I had to get creative, and I did. So I took, this is the new El Cheapo. Well, it wasn't cheap. It was close to $30. I took this. This is supposed to be the right one. You see the finger there. You see the slot in the right place. But it wouldn't stay on. Why? Because it's not exactly the same. The holes are slightly off. It's smooth. I mean, it doesn't feel rough or anything. But when you pull on the spring, it's not quite as smooth and refined as the original. And I'm not surprised. Okay. And even this it's just slightly off. Well, the engineers didn't ask to, that's not what they wanted. I'm not saying don't buy these. You can buy them and try them. Sometimes they work. It depends on the machine. But in the case of this one, nope, it wouldn't fit. I was so disappointed. And then I thought, what if I try to take the original bobbin case, original OEM made by Singer, the one that was missing the spring, and I took the spring off the new one. And it was mostly, the circumference of these things is similar, but a little bit different. The Singer is actually thicker and heavier, and that doesn't surprise me either. Okay, so I took the spring, and I put it in place, and then I put it inside, and it stays. It actually stays and does what it needs to do. So I'm going to get the bobbin loaded, and then I am going to test this and see if I can get this thing to sew properly. By the way, if you ever adjust the tiny, tiny little, I mean, it looks big maybe here on the camera. This is the size of a peppercorn, folks. And it's designed to be adjusted, loosened, or tightened. Be very careful with this, because if it comes off, remember I had it loose in my hand. It was like holding a piece of pepper. If it bounces off your table, you're going to have a bad day. Mine did not, and I think I've talked about this before, I use this sort of fuzzy matte stuff. Let's see if I can get, I've shown this to you all before. It's hard to see right now. I've got a little piece of cardboard there. Right here, it's kind of like it almost looks like terry cloth, like a short terry cloth. It's some sort of dish draining thing I bought at a kitchen store or something. I don't know where I got it. Anyway, the point is, be extra careful, because I thought, oh gosh, if I lose this screw, I'm going to have an even tougher day. Anyway, this is a way to make something work. Sometimes you do the best you can. I could have tried to go online, and I eventually, if I was willing to take time, I think I could have found a vintage version of this Class 15 bobbin case, right? Not this one, but this one. But it would have taken me longer. These are not as common. You can find them, but they're not as easy to find. So let's see how everybody cross your fingers, and let's see if this is actually going to work. Again, as I mentioned before, I like making videos like this where you all get to see me kind of struggle a bit, because I don't want you to give up when you face stuff like this, right? It can happen to anybody. It's not you. And if you don't have a lot of experience, well, that's how we learn, right? It took trial and error for me to learn any of this stuff, along with all the other people that make great videos on sewing machines. Anyway, thank you for watching, and in the next video we will see if this solution, quote unquote, is actually going to work, because to give up on a machine as beautiful as this one would be a real shame. Thanks for watching, everybody.